preparing to live stream the meeting, which usually means it's already live streaming, but they won't tell you. So put on your smiley face.
Sarah.
All right, we're live, man. We're live on YouTube right now. This is a first, and just be here, man. It's good. I'm here right now with man. I'm here with the cats right now. So this is Sarah Reich. Sarah Reich is out of L.A. She's a tap dancer. Sarah Thar is in Canada. She's a musician, drum set player, and producer from what she's been doing so much of lately. We have Ralph Nader with BYOS. Also, you could catch him on Beyonce's Homecoming. You can catch him all over the world, man. And snare drummer, Rudimental. I call him a Rudimental creator. He's doing his thing, man. So it's just really super cool to be here with you guys. What we're talking about is rhythm. My name is Drew Tucker with Mallet Lab and whatever else you want to think of me as. It's not a xylophone, but I've always found it so fascinating how like a bass player thinks about rhythm versus how a drummer thinks about it versus how melody players or singers interpret what they hear, but specifically how percussionists think about it. So getting us together with Sarah, who's a tap dancer, but just really just a rhythmic mastermind in the way she interprets rhythms. Ralph, who just creates just the coolest stuff on one drum, man, and just the textures he creates and what he hears and the arrangements he creates. And Sarah, who just, man, I don't even know how you know where the one is half the time when you're playing like that. That's really the first question: is how on earth do you know where the one is? But we'll get there. And also just has everyone here has such cool roots and just varied backgrounds from just different places, different come up. So I appreciate you guys being here, and we're gonna get right into it, man. So just first, if you guys could just tell us a little bit about yourself and just kind of like your musical background, like what you guys came up listening to, what your parents had you listening to, and how that affects how you play now. And Reich, we'll have to distinguish the Sarahs, but you first.
What is up, everyone? Happy to be here. Thank you, Drew, for having all of us. How fun is this? I am such a big fan of all of these three phenomenal musicians, and I love all three of you with all of my heart. And I just had to say that real fast because this is really fun. Um, I'm a tap dancer. I grew up in the dance world. I studied some piano, but nothing amazing. I think, being a tap dancer, we grew up listening to jazz music. Tap dancers traditionally dance to jazz music and big band swing, big band era. So my dance studio, we tapped to Count Basie and Duke Ellington and all the big band era, and we emulated the style of the 1930s and 40s, which is like the golden age and golden era of tap dance. So that's a big part of the musicality that I have is swinging. We tap dancers can swing all day, and then also studying great tap masters like. Um, John Bubbles and Jimmy Slide and Gregory Hines, like killer tap dancers and Baby Lawrence, who were excellent musicians, not just entertaining tap dancers. They were also very musical. So when drummers talk to me like, "Wow, you have such good rhythm. I'm sure you listen to a lot of drummers. What drummers do you listen to?" And I'm like, "Yeah, but nah, I listen to killing tap dancers. How about that? And you should be listening to them too." So anyway, that's a big part of my background is jazz. However, I did grow up listening to all styles of music. I love rock and roll. I studied drums for a while because I wanted to learn John Bonham. I just wanted to play along with John Bonham. So I love everything, and I love my Latin roots and Latin music, everything. So as a tap dancer, I really find that it's important to listen to a lot of music to even know what you can play as a tap dancer to various styles of music. Because as tap dancers and drummers, we can tap and play to various styles of music. So why not really get into all the different genres, get as much as you can, and interpret the best way possible with the proper language.
Yeah, yeah, and having played with you a bunch, man, I know that's the case. All those influences. Miss Thar, what about you, Sarah?
So for me, we're supposed to talk about ourselves, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Um, I grew up in Canada, and my parents, we come from the Indian heritage and background, but family and parents were born in East Africa. So there's some roots in East Africa and India, specifically North India, even more specific, Gujarat. And I grew up being self-taught. My dad's like, "Don't play the drums. You know, nobody cares about the drummer. The drummer is always in the background. What are you doing with your life?" And he's a musician himself, and he plays piano. And he would do a lot of touring with artists from India, primarily like Bollywood, Indian film music. And I started playing with him on stage when I was like 5 years old. Started like teaching myself how to play drums when I was 2. And until I was like 18 years old, I heard drum kit from the lens of percussion. So when I would play drums, I would hear the sound of tabla. Tabla is a pair of North Indian drums that you play with your hands and your fingers, pitch bending with your left hand, a lot of finger tapping with your right hand. And then I picked up my first syncopation and stick control book and really learned what French German group was. But until age 18, it was more listening to grooves and being creative. Like, how can I emulate the bass of a tabla on a drum set? How can I sound as authentic on drum kit, but and seeing the drum kit from a lens of percussion? So that's kind of my roots. Then went to university, studied jazz there, got into like gospel, hip hop, fusion, and that whole world. And I feel like now I'm at a point in my life where I'm bringing my percussion and Indian heritage and like the jazz, hip hop, fusion stuff, and like kind of putting everything together.
Nice. Yeah, man, that's awesome. I had no idea you were self-taught for that long.
Yeah.
So how cool is that, man? That's inspiring. Man, Ralph, man, what BYOS? What about you, man?
Oh man, I started in my diapers, banging on pots and pans. Um, my dad, he was a DJ, so I grew up listening to a lot of old school rap like Rakim, Eric B, and just from their rhythmic flow and like their groupings, of phrasing and how it carries over the one and everything. Just that kind of stuck with me. So like I really just drew to all those rhythms. So once I got of age, my parents got me a drum set, but I grew up in the projects in Brooklyn, New York. So every time I try to practice, police banging on the door like 5 minutes later. So my parents were like, you know what? There's an after school program, which was the Jackie Robinson Steppers Marching Band. And it's based in Brooklyn, New York, and it's open to all the boroughs. And basically, I was a part of that group from age 7 to 17. And our sponsor was Russell Simmons and Tyrone Williams, and they basically had us part of a lot of entertainment gigs, doing Madison Square Garden, the New York Knicks performances, half times, New Jersey Nets basketball games as well. So I've gained that entertainment exposure as a young kid. So that stuck with me, and then it got to the point where that became a job. So I was actually a part of the drum line for the Nets and the Knicks. So I was getting a check, and I'm like, man, this is cool. I'm getting paid for it. So it stemmed from there. Then I got the band scholarship at Hampton University, which was a HBCU, and from that style, we play and dance to a lot of pop songs. So that's a big influence on me as well. But at the same time, I've had a drum instructor, Timothy Green, who marched cadets, and he taught us the more technical side of drumming. So I'm just like a big melting pot of all these influencers, and I just try to learn as much information as possible. So while I was in college, I marched Blue Devils 3 years, 2 championships, and I placed second in the INE. I didn't know anything about an INE solo, but it was the most fun I ever had.
Yeah, man.
But just it stemmed from there, and I also majored in broadcast journalism and production. So I was involved in TV, radio. So after I graduated, worked at ABC News. I quit there after a year and moved to Disney. Well, moved to California to work at Disney. And then from there, I had the free time to travel and establish BYOS with my drum partner, Harvey. So it's
Art.
a
Shout out to
long thing of entertainment things. But yeah, I'm just a big melting pot of all my experiences.
Man, that is so cool. So we have someone who has these Indian roots. You came up playing. I saw videos of you playing in the family band Thar. That was super cool. We have someone with more hip hop roots, hip hop gospel roots. Reich comes from this rich heritage of tap dance, jazz, and swing, and all of us, just still can come together. Like we've all collaborated in one way or another. I played with you, Sarah, at Thar at PASIC that one time. Man, you were just killing it. I just had to sit back and enjoy. I had to play with Reich. I played everyone at PASIC, but Reich, obviously so funny calling you by your last name. We obviously have been on tour together. We've had a great time. Mexico is dope. And
Yeah.
Ralph, right? And Ralph, I don't think we've really gotten to play together much, man. But I'm looking forward to it. The hang is always fun though. So the music
But
will
we're
be
gonna
good.
make that happen.
We'll make it happen for sure. Oh yeah, that's right. A couple times, man. We're gonna make it happen though, for sure. Um, So I'm gonna throw down a video of you, Sarah Thar. Two very drastically different videos, and I want you to kind of I'm curious about what you're thinking about when you're going through both of them, because and how much of your influence is really kind of there when you're playing it. So check these out.
It don't get much better than.
Man, no prisoners. Took no prisoners. So contrast that, and that of course is from the Zildjian Live that you did with Ghost Note, with Sput and Nate and all those cats and Aaron. But contrast that with this. Yeah, man. I mean, those are two, and obviously there's a third one there that I didn't get into, because that one's probably one of my favorite ones that you do, is that one that you do with the singer that was coming up. But what is there a different thought process that goes into playing in those two settings, or are they influenced by another? Because at the end of the day, I mean, you come from these this very Indian, which is very rhythmic in terms of the musical training and the culture. But then you're playing a Western collection of drums called, we call it drum set, right? So how does that translate? What's the thought process going through your head when you're interpreting those two things?
So it's very interesting, because being self-taught, you're not given labels. You have not been told that drum kit is supposed to be played this way. Indian music is supposed to be played this way, or when you play fusion, you have to do this. So for me, whenever I played music growing up, it came from a place of my core, from my own listening and what I felt was right. So whenever I play in different situations, it's not like, oh, this book says this and this drummer does that. It's just like, what am I feeling in the moment?
Yo, scripture that. Man, that. But you hear the influences, like when you think about, like, because I play with a tabla player. I've recorded with a tabla player, a really good one. He studied with Zakir, and
Yeah.
Every time I hear a top, like, I'm like, how do you? It's so funny, because he'll be like, all right, here's what we're gonna play, man. It's 1, 2. I'm like, where's the one with what you're saying right now? I have no clue. He's like, no, I'm in 11-16 over 13-15, and you got to do a couple advanced division, long division, but you'll find the one. So like, how are you thinking about it when you just hear, when you're doing these fills and all of this, just really, just this crazy stuff. I don't know another adjective.
Yeah, so there's this concept in the North Indian and South Indian system, but I'll refer to the North Indian system because I'm familiar with that the most. And so there's rhythmic cycles, and the cycles are called talas. And each rhythmic cycle has certain beats within the cycle. And each cycle has, it's kind of broken up into different parts. And the parts are bhari, which means like heavy. And then there's kali, which means light and empty. So in any groove, so there's a groove called rupak. And the tala, I shouldn't call it groove, it's a tala. It's a rhythmic cycle in 7. And it's 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. And the 1, 2, 3 is very light. It's the Kali side. And then the 1, 2, 3, 4 is the Bhari side. So I never grew up being like 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. It's like full of anxiety, So you just kind of go, boom, 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 so it's like thinking amongst those lines. So even if you go to the Zildjian live video, it's funny, that Zildjian live video, we wrote the song the night before, like 2 a.m. So I didn't have a chance to practice it. I didn't have a chance to shed it. We were all jet lagged. I had to be there for 9 a.m. on 3 hours of sleep. So it was kind of like figuring it out what I'm going to play on the spot. And the shots were, okay, ba 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 ba. So it's like, okay, ba ba, digga digga ba 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 ba. So it's like thinking in that headspace.
Wow. Yeah. Well, I mean, I was actually just thinking about that. I was like, man, I wonder if how long before this they sent this to her and she got a chance to, but that's even doper, man. I got to go back and listen to that again with that new point of reference, man. Sarah, you're something else, Star. So Sarah Reich, man, and obviously Ralph, ladies first, man. That's it's kind of how we roll. So, Sarah, so I've had the fortunate opportunity of being able to work with you a bunch and being able to be your musical director. So trying to translate, what you're saying to me and then translate it to the rest of the band. But it's always a pleasure because you speak in musical terms, which is not usual, I would say, for a lot of dancers, tap dancers, much less any dancers. So, how did you come to really realize and appreciate the importance of rhythmic notation, which I know you teach to all your kids, and how do you think about interpreting rhythm when you're performing alongside someone?
Cool. Well, when I was 12 years old, I was studying with a woman by the name of Denise Shearer. And Denise was a drummer. She was studying drums, and she's a tap teacher. And she would bring her drum set to tap class. And she'd set it up, and then we'd all do our warm-up, and then we'd all come around the drum set, and she would have sheets from Syncopation. Good old Ted Reed drum book, Syncopation, that we all know and love. And she had photocopied all these exercises, laminated them, and handed them out to the tap students, and we would have to read them. And she was saying, exercise number 1, quarter notes and eighth notes. How do we count this? Okay, let's do stamps for quarter notes, toe heels for eighth notes. And we'd be reading it, holding it in our hands, reading and going 1, 2, and 3, and 4. Sorry, 1, 2, and 3, and 4. 1, 2, and 3, 4, and 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and that's when I really realized, wow, tap is like percussion. And tap is musical. And that's the first time, and I had been tap dancing since I was 5 years old. So for 7 years, I'm in these dance studios and I studied with 3 different teachers before I got to her 4 or 5 actually. And no one had ever really told me tap is music. It's learn these rhythms, scat the rhythms, learn the tap steps, but nothing necessarily no one really sang music to me, the words, or percussion to me. So that's how I got all into it, and it really helped my timing, it helped my execution, and then studying drums, it just really got me into this whole other world, and so that's why I try to encourage my students now. I'm like, yo, play the drums, learn what it feels like to loop a groove and sit, and what a bass drum should sound like, and the hi-hat and the different tones, because we have all those tones right here, baby. This is a drum set, but you got to know how to even listen for it. So that's really important. And then also, in the songs that we play together, Drew, are some of the songs off of my New Change album, which just turned 2 yesterday.
Shout
And
out,
it's all,
just turned 2.
yep, just turned 2 yesterday. So if anybody out there is interested in listening to an original Tap album, you can look it up on iTunes and Spotify. It's called New Change, and all the songs are written stemming from Tap. Songs written from rhythmic ideas in a collaboration with various musicians. I start with an idea, play it out, scat it to the musician. They'll play it out, and how they do on whatever instrument they're on, piano, sax, cello, and so on and so forth. So the songs that are written are based off of very standard like jazz form, AABA. And then from then on, it's like, okay, we can either continue developing an arrangement or just let it be free form. There's that. So when playing these songs, I'm probably going to match the melody because I wrote the melody in a sense, right, with my tap dancing. But then what's also cool is I'll write stop time sections like it's tapping. We have that stop time section in which I'll then fill that in. So it's fun to write songs for myself in a way of like, what type of landscape would I like to tap on? Something Latin, something funky, something chill, you know? Time signatures vary as well too. So that's kind of cool. Yeah, if that answers that.
No, no, it totally does. And so I'm gonna throw down a couple videos of yours because I mean, all of you guys are so diverse in what you guys do. So I'm gonna throw down a couple videos of you, and I'm curious about how you're thinking about interpreting each of these things. Like I understand when you're writing your own thing, like you're in the front, which there's certain considerations that you have. That's one thing. But when you're playing with other people and you hear something, and it's your job to and then interpret it into where your role is and the choices you make, I'm really interested in how you interpret those different forms of rhythm in your world. So let's check out some of this action right here. Man, just so good, man. I mean, so obviously some points where you're playing the melody, but even when you're playing the melody, like how do you pick out which melody, which tone makes which melody? Because it sounds like you have like 25, you have a full 12
Let
tones.
me demonstrate. A little something. So,
And shout
listen.
too.
My tap board, welcome into my kitchen. The tap we have, like I mentioned, we have a drum set, but we also kind of have a scale. We have our lowest tone, which is like well, it depends on the tap board and the acoustics, but it's normally a little lower than that. heel drop is our bass drum. We have a flam that's also pretty gnarly. Toe knock is also pretty dark. And then in between there we have a jig. And then we'll go maybe in the mid-range, stamp, scuff, and then higher tones, ball the foot, tap, and then even the way you play it. So you have all those tones that you can play around with. But you have to hear it. You have to hear it as that in your mind before you even play it, because otherwise it will sound monotone unless you're really trying to hear a melody. Then
Right.
It can sound like that. A lot of it is very intentional, and then the way you hit the floor and your relationship to the dance and how that develops over years.
So-
takes a lot to be able to find your own sound, even just for that.
So I know for me there's times, and I'm gonna say this out. I'm gonna say this out there live. When I'll go out on a riff and I'll wait until I hear the one again, but maybe I'm not so completely aware of where that one is until like I feel it again. But it feels like you're always. You guys are not like that. That's just me. That's just me and my deficiencies. I'm working on it. We'll see how that goes. But it feels like even though you're out, like there's hemiolas, there's a lot of stuff that's really syncopated, that you always are very aware of where that melody is. What's going through your head when you're thinking about it, especially when there's the bass player playing, right?
Right. I mean, you both have to have good timing. So that, and you want to be able to trust whoever you're playing with that they do have good timing, so that you can stretch time and know that you can come back and will be cool. Like, and it's so big, and then you see my arms like wailing, like I'm literally trying to stretch the time with my body. And even body movements and weight shifting. Tap dance is it's visual music.
Man,
It really
deep.
is.
Man.
Like everything is involved. So even just the thought of like legato and staccato, your whole body can be legato or it can be staccato, like we could stick it. It's all those things. And that's, even if the tapped sound, if you close your eyes and you still hear step, 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 but if my body's going step, 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 you interpret it as ya, do, wa, versus I go ba, ooh, ah. Then that's my more physical thing. So that's why it's a beautiful art that you have to see and listen to.
And that's really interesting because that conversation always happens in mallet percussion, because there's a lot of visual aspect, and we talk about the visual aspect of the music, and people will interpret it as such. So there's a lot of correlation there, man. That's awesome. So I'm gonna show a brief clip of one more, and I'm just curious to hear like the different thought process that goes through your head when you're thinking about this. And that would be.
I want your love, I want your revenge, I want your love. I don't wanna be friends, je veux dans la mort et je veux te revoir, je veux dans la mort. I don't want to be friends.
So when it comes to this, like where then are you? What are you thinking about in this type of situation?
Great. So this is Postmodern Jukebox.
Shout out to Ariana Savalas, always killing.
Shout out to PMJ. Shout out to Ariana Savalas. That was my very first PMJ video. And, they're featuring me. I'm the tap dancer. But here's the deal. If there's a vocalist, it's not all about me. And this is a thing I have to keep telling my students, because we're always at tap festivals where the tap dancer is the highlight of the show. So each piece in the big show, you have a different tap dancer, who tap dances the entire length of the song. Because you're there to watch the tap dancer lay it down. But in a situation like this, I can't just tap over the whole thing. Ariana's singing a song. She's delivering the message. So in a sense, I have to give her the light. And so in the beginning of the video, I stand like this and my focus is toward her, because I need the viewers to know that y'all should be watching her. Because I know you want to watch the tap dancer, and I appreciate it, but you should be watching her. So even in the live shows, I'm like, yes, Ariana, yes, do tell the story. So I'm playing this almost character. And then if there's a little bit of break in the music, then I can go trickle in a little bit and then go back to Ari. And then they'll give me stop time. So that's stop time when you open it up. And that's my main solo. That's when I get to go and have a great time. And then she comes back in. And then I can play the role of accompanist. Let me just boom. I want your love. Take it go go ga 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 you know, so I'm thinking more like a drummer and like just like little fills here and there while still dancing. So now I still have this other job of being a dancer and playing that role of like the drama of that mood coming out of that stop time section. So wow, there's such artistry to being a tap dancer. I just realized.
I mean, it's
So much going on.
know? And that's the thing is like sometimes we this is the default way we think about, and we don't get a chance to just like articulate it, you know. And so it's really cool. You have a question here, and it's from Jake Lyons, and Jake says, "What genre of music lends itself best to tap in your experience in writing and interpreting music?"
Genre, any genre, yo, any genre that the tap dancer is solid in. Jazz, I could say jazz because that's traditional, but like I just did a track with Ibrahim Malouf, the great trumpet player, and it's like kind of gypsy style, and it works really great. You know, because I mean, there's even other foot percussion styles like flamenco that you would want to hear in that. Like tap could fit in that as well. Um, Tap in classical is killing. You know, think about, you know, the intricacies there. Like even just for example, "Love Me or Leave Me," Nina Simone. Like her classic piano playing, even though it's like a swinging tune. Like a lot of tap dancers love that song because we can really match those beats, the notes that she's playing in that solo. So you know, and I've collaborated with cellists and all various styles of music. It
But
works
you
for every.
the right person to ask that question to because you just monster on any genre that's put in front of you, like you figure something out. So maybe for somebody else there might be a preferred style, but you seem to just be masterful at all the styles, man. So it's super inspiring, man. So
Thank you. Yeah. So you got to again. It just goes back to your first question. It's like listening to so much genres of music to know what even fits best.
yeah, it's all the kung fu of what we do, right? Like just you master all the styles. It's the Bruce Lee of all of it, man. So we're gonna come back to you because I got so many videos of all of you guys. Ralph, man, BYOS, Beyonce, the German guy. I don't want to butcher his name because that's not respectful. So you can say who it is, but you were on tour with him.
Seed.
Yeah, man. And Disney World, Blue Devils, HBCUs, just man, just all the stuff. I remember when I first saw you and Harvey, me and my wife were just chilling, and I was like, it was the Michael Jackson joint, and you both were on pads. And
Hey, talk about the Michael Jackson tribute.
yeah, I was like, yo, check this out. And then I just went down the rabbit hole, man. And then we met in 2015. I think we traded BYOS hats. I had the black and gold one, you had the blue one, but I was wearing blue, so you were like, man, you can't be rocking like that.
Yeah, I
And
got you, bro. You already know.
oh yeah, it was super dope, man. So like I want to really know, man. How did you know? When did you realize like this is what you were gonna do? And I don't mean just playing percussion because you're consummate at a lot of percussion. I've seen you play kit, you play quad, you play all this stuff. But like really, your focus when people think about you is on this one drum. So when did you realize that this is where you were gonna dig into, and how did that come about?
You know what's wild? Before the whole like as the I would say the internet started developing with social media and like YouTube and everything like that, we had like what in the lot videos and like Harvey and I once we were able to get like dial up internet, we were able to watch videos. So we were exposed to like Blast. So we saw Jeff Queen and we was like, hey, like we could do that. And we said that when we were teenagers. And not saying like we could take their place, but we were saying like, hey, they're touring the world performing on a stage. And it was just those two guys and the audience loved it, So he was like, not saying that we were better, but he was like, hey, with our experiences with the tricks and everything like that, maybe we could be some type of entertainment to the world. So with that and just our experiences doing like the drum lines for, like I said, sports teams, and then also like having that as a job, and then moving out here to California to work at Disney's. I'm about to be there for 10 years. It's crazy, but it's a blessing. I'm a part of a musician union, Local 7. So like they take well care of us, and they also allow me to venture out, do clinics, tour, all this other stuff. So it's really a blessing just to be in that position. But I really figured it out, I guess, like after I really quit the ABC news station just to come out to California. Because I was in Virginia. I went to Hampton University in Hampton, Virginia. And then I was a production assistant for ABC. And I was always drumming, but it was just like that was my side thing just for my hobby. But I was like, I didn't feel fulfilled at the station. So once I was presented with the opportunity to move across the country and just like start new, I was like, all right, you know, like that's that leap of faith, you know. So from there on, I was like, you know what, I'm gonna just go at it. You know, this is something that's connected me to so many people and got me to travel the world and everything. So I might as well stick with it. So I just took my knowledge from my broadcast production skills, like editing and like shot composition. I was like, okay, let's see what we could do, and just start off with just basic exercise videos or like 4 measure licks, 8 measure licks, and people was asking like, hey, can you transcribe this? Can you transcribe that? And I was like, oh shoot, people are actually interested in what I'm doing. So it was like I really didn't have a following or anything like that. I was just doing it because like I enjoyed creating. I didn't have a drum line or anyone to learn my stuff, so I was just putting it out. And then I started transcribing stuff. People started learning my music and started posting videos of them playing it, and I got the chance to share it. And then it just got to a point where people were like, man, this is dope. And then Harvey hit me up because before I was supposed to go on tour with him and Peter Fox, but I was in college, so I had to miss out on the first tour that he went out on. But I was fortunate enough to catch the second tour with Seed, because Peter Fox was one of the 3 singers for Seed, and he was like, yo, the drummers are dope to have on stage. They bring the energy. We're dancing. You know, we're accompanying the drum set player in the 14-piece band, you know, so it looks good on stage when you have 50,000 to 100,000 people. So it was just like the big thing. And like Sarah was saying, even with that whole approach, we couldn't go up there chopping, you know, no crazy rudiments and hybrid stuff because the audience don't know anything what we're doing. You know, they're there for the band. They're not there for us, you know, so it's more so we just wanted to just compliment them, you know, and just lift it up just a little bit more. And it just went well, you know, and we ended up touring 5 years with them. And I got a chance to live in Berlin 3 months at a time for 5 years. So that was like a whole nother cultural thing.
In Berlin.
Yeah, I lived in Berlin, Kreuzberg, man. It's dope. So like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
There it is.
Yeah, spreche Sie Deutsch. Like
there it is.
You know, it's been pretty dope, man. So just touring with them and doing a South American tour, like going to Colombia, Argentina, and Mexico, and all the places, and really experiencing the culture and the people and the music, and just tapping and just, you know, just pulling from all those experiences. And I was like, man, like this is it. And just that, and being like experiencing that with Harvey, and like on our downtime, we were doing our videos. People were like, dang, these dudes are traveling the world. They're performing on stage. They're drumming, you know, all over the city, you know. So it was a really cool thing. And then once we got back to America, it was like, all right, now we got, you know, ProMark, you know, we're family with ProMark, Mapex, Evans, everything like that. So it was more so us just following our passion. And then, you know, people were just willing to help us to like do more of it. And that's just been like the biggest blessing, you know. So
yeah, man. And how cool is it? Shout out to Jeff Queen, Nick Angelis, those cats, man, for inspiring the next cats. And you guys now, all 3 of you guys, just being out front, inspiring the next group, of letting them know that it's possible, you know, for you guys too. So getting into the conversation of rhythm, man. I know personally, Ralph, by the way, you inspire me, man. I'll check your video. The level of the quantity of content you put out, some days makes me feel motivated. Some days makes me feel like really bad about myself. But I mean, it's just and then like I'm like, he's just improvising it, and then it's like, nope, here's the next video 2 hours later, here's the notes I wrote down of the stuff I just played, and I'm like, oh, never mind. I got no excuse. I got to get up. So, but I appreciate it, man. And so when you're doing all these, they never get old. You know what I mean? Like every time you do another one, to a hip hop artist or to any musician, singer, they never get old. And that's because of the fresh ways that you're always thinking about it and doing things. And so my question is, like, when you're playing a solo versus when you're playing in a drum line versus when you're on a tour, you know, like you kind of touched on it. And we're going to check out a few of these videos right now real quick, but I'm just curious about the different ways that you're thinking, especially when you're playing solo versus when you're playing in a drum line, because I think that could help a lot of kids nowadays in a lot of ways. So let's check it out.
I got
a condo in Manhattan. Baby girl, what's happening? You and your ass invited, so gonna get to clapping. Go pop it for a plan, pop it for me. Turn around and drop it for a plan, drop it for me. I'll rent a beach house in Miami. Wake up with no jammies. Lobster tail for dinner. Julio served that scampi. You got it if you want it. Got it if you want it. Said you got it if you want it. Take my wallet if you want it now. Jump in the Cadillac. Girl, let's put some miles on it. Anything you want, just to put a smile on it. You deserve it, baby. You deserve it all. I'm gonna give it to you. Gold jewelry shining so bright. Strawberry champagne on us. Lucky for you, that's what I like. That's what I like. Lucky for you, that's what I like. That's what I like. Sex by the fire at night. Silk sheets and diamonds, all white. Lucky for you, that's what I like. That's what I like. Lucky for you, that's what I like. That's what I like. I'm talking trips to Puerto Rico. Say the word and we go. You can be my flica. Girl, I'll be a flico, mamacita. I would never make a promise that I can't keep. I promise that your smile ain't gonna never leave.
The scream. With the scream at the
Dang.
end. So high. What was that? 2007, right?
That was 2007. I was 18.
18. Drummond. 18. So like what? Like you either one, both of them. You're playing with something, right? Like you're not just playing with nothing, right? You're playing with Bruno Mars in one case. What are you thinking about when you're doing that? Versus what are you thinking about when you're playing on a line at the level of Blue Devils? And how did that Blue Devils experience help what you got going on now?
No, absolutely. Okay, so usually when I approach my projects, I always keep in mind that the pocket is already set. The drums is already laid, right? So now I have to find my own space within the drums. So there are a lot of times you'll hear me do like a lot of crazy rhythms on the E's and the U's because most of the time the ones and the twos are already held down, So for myself, it's more like if I hear boom, 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 I'll think like boom, So I find that pocket within those accents, and then I start with that rhythm, and I'm like, all right, how can I add a visual approach to that? So I'll go right. So that's that rhythm. I'm like, okay, I go. And I'll just like experiment and just come up with different modifications and feel like which one feels most natural and then which one feels most comfortable. And then I'll just go with that and then I'll go on to the next phrase. Yeah. But then also when I'm in the line, I just have to have open ears, like completely. I have to listen behind me, I have to listen in front. And the number one thing that I really do love and about Blue Devils, like when you're on the field, you have the you have the drum major in the front, but you have the drum line all the way in the back, and you're all able to attack exactly on the same time. And we all know sound travels, so it takes a really, really good deal of like focus to align all of that in one. So like just marching with Blue Devils, it really opened my ears into playing with a full ensemble. So I know like, hey, I can contribute to the sound, but I'm not overbearing. I'm not overpowering. because I could hear the person to the left of me, to the right of me, in front and behind. So it's just really opens your awareness. So that's one thing that I really did help with Blue Devils.
Nice. Now, but it takes a certain amount of because I know there's a lot of cats who can play solo really great, but they can't make a line. And I think one of the rare qualities that goes understated that you have is you have a level of humility that allows you to play with other people. I think everyone here, Sarah, both the Sarah squared, you guys have a level of humility that allows you to play with a band. So Sarah, you can go in and be, all day long. Sarah Rice, you can go in and just be tapping whatever you want and just be doing crazy stuff that works. But also, like, can you talk about, like, have you guys ever had any experiences where that really helped you to exemplify that? Maybe one time when you went in overdid it, and you're like, okay, I got to chill out. I know there's a lot of cats out there who can play their instrument, but don't get hired much or may not make the line. You know what I mean? Because they don't have that level of humility. Like, was that hard to develop? Did it come? Was it just something like if you have it, if you don't, you don't, or that's for all of you?
I think I had to learn the hard way, just by being around musicians. Because again, a lot of the stuff that we do as tap dancers is not textbook. Like, there's no textbook for tap dance that tells you should consider yourself a musician. And when you go to a jazz jam, you only take a few choruses. Again, like, all I knew was tap dancers tap the whole song. So I used to go to these jazz jams down the street from where I live at the World Stage Jazz Club. And I would go up and tap dance, and I would tap the entire song over the sax solos, over the piano solos, over everyone's solo, because I didn't know any better. No one had taught me any better. But also the musicians didn't know about my world either, so they just let me. And they let me tap over everything. Like, all right, well, when Sarah comes, she's going to tap on 2 songs. She's going to tap the whole song, and then we'll just let her do it, and then that's that. I was 16 or something. And then it wasn't until I was starting to go into New York more often that I realized amongst my tap dancer friends going to these jams that they were only taking a couple of choruses. And like, oh, no, we're just like the sax player and the piano player. We can play the head, and then we'll look around and we'll play a couple of choruses of the form, and that's it. And then we're going to lay out, and then we'll catch the head out. I'm like, wow, okay. I didn't even know about that approach. But, you just got to learn by going out and figuring it out.
Nice. Yeah, that's the takeaway from that. Go out and figure it out, to take your lumps and learn, What about you, Thar?
So I can think of like 3 different instances that really helped me develop my listening and my ear. So the first instance was like, my dad's also a self-taught musician, and he has no patience. He does not know how to teach. And when I would play with him on stage, I was like maybe like 10, and I'd be like, Dad, what song is next? And he's like, I don't know, just listen to it and figure it out. And then I'd be sitting there like wondering what time signature and what's happening. And then that really helped develop my ear and my intuition. So it became like second nature just to feel things out and be really respectful to the singer too. And then another instance is living in Toronto, the music is very diverse. Like, I played in a gospel music in a church for 5 to 6 years. I played in Cuban bars. I played like hip hop places, like jazz stuff, Indian stuff. And my goal is how respectful can I be to each culture and tradition? When I played in the gospel setting, what's important, the snare and the kick? If I played the snare and the kick like that in the jazz setting, they would fire me instantly. So it's like, how can I be as respectful as I can? So linking that with humility, I think, is really important. And I remember this one time, this was when I was like obsessed with gospel music, like in my early 20s. And I played for this blues artist, and I was like laying down some beats for him, and he stopped me. He's like, this doesn't feel right. And I was like heartbroken. I'm like, oh my God, this has never happened to me before. I'm like, I'm perfectly fine with the metronome. And then I noticed I'm doing too much hi-hat subtleties. Maybe my sound sources are not equaling up properly. So loosen up the hi-hat, maybe like loosen up your feel a little bit. And then it felt perfect right after that. So listening, experiencing culture, being respectful, knowing what means, what is important to some people, and being aware of that, and not being arrogant that what you think is right is necessarily right.
Yeah, that's a lot there, man. What about you, Ralph?
I was just about to say that. As you've probably seen, like, I do a lot of collaborative projects with so many drummers, tap dancers, horn players, like bands, stuff. So, like Bruce Lee preach, he says, be water. You have to adapt to your environment. You have to adjust, you know. So like you said, Drew, you have to have that sense of humility to kind of be like, you know what, I don't know everything, and maybe my style is just different, you know. So you just have to accept that, and then it's like, you know what, let's meet halfway in the middle, and then that's how everyone could progress. So, and like for myself, whenever I collaborate with someone, at first it never really lines up, you know, because it's like, all right, let's, I'm taking all of my experience and my knowledge, and you're taking all of yours, and we're just like going at it first time. But it's like we have to fill it out. It's like, okay, your interpretation is a little bit more open with this, at this part. So you know what, I'm gonna adjust, and then I'm gonna fill it out. So, um, like it really does help, like stay on your toes. It helps like open your ears and be more aware of, like I said, the ensemble. You know, when you're in a band, sometimes they drag, sometimes they push. You gotta follow. You know, you can't be a superhero because that's how you stick out. So you know, like there are those moments where, like I say, you just have to have that sense of humility and just go with the ensemble, but go confidently with them. Like, you know what, we're gonna ride this out together. You know, so yeah.
Nice. I like that. Go with the ensemble, but go confidently with them. Right. So there is a video that I have, and I'm showing this one for fun, and then I'm gonna throw a beat out to you guys, and we're gonna try like, hasn't been tried. I have zero idea how this shall work, but we're gonna try to cipher this piece, and I don't know how it's gonna come across the other end. I don't think I'm gonna play the groove, but then I'm gonna stop the groove, and then Sarah's gonna throw it down and hand it off. And we're gonna go in order. And we're gonna go in order. So we won't be playing together, but we'll just be handing it off. And I'm just see what you guys pick up and take with it. There'll probably be a little bit of space between each person, but that's all right. That's all right. So we're just gonna have some fun with it. There's just a couple more videos that I have that I just really want to share with the peoples, man. And it's this one here first. So good. So very good.
Hey, shout out to Gordon Campbell who let us take over his studio and he was videoing. Like, how we gonna be in Gordon Campbell's studio and make him do the video?
How long ago was that?
In March, right before COVID, I was in LA for rehearsals, and like literally like the day before we left, we're like, let's do it.
Yeah.
I mean, because there was a lot of improvisation, and that's a quick question I have for you, Sarah. When you're improvising, what are you thinking about? When because I don't, improvising for tap dance, it's similar to improvising for a vibraphone or for a drum set, but what's different? How do you think about that when you're improvising, especially over jazz?
Well, let's see. I've been improvising since I was 12 years old. Not every tap dancer gets exposed to improv heavy. But if you're very lucky and fortunate and you're in one of those pocketed towns of killer tap dancers, there is most likely a tap jam in your city. And you would go and shed with your peers or teachers, people better than you. Like when I was 12, I was in a circle with the top cats, Chance Taylor, Jason Samuel Smith, like killer teachers of mine. And so since 12, like I've always been shedding tap and always improvising. So to me at this point, improv is second nature. I don't think about it. I don't freak out about it. I just speak. And you learn all these tap steps, you learn all the sounds. This is a cramp roll, you learn these combinations. You do, and I went through the motions of tap dancing in youth companies, in professional companies, and jazz jams, funk jams, salsa dance nights, and then I'll put on my shoes and jam with the musicians there. So like I think just an accumulation of my life experience as a tap dancer and improvising constantly. Um, I have found a voice. I have found a sound that I feel like I barely found now that I couldn't have found at 16 or at 21. Like, you develop this sound and this thing and this need to say something on top of a groove, whatever the groove is. So that to me is just, I just put on my shoes and I go. You just speak. I just want to say one more thing because Ralph, man, watching that clip of you, um, it had me tripping out, brother, because we collaborated before, and I had learned all your rhythms. Remember, we did the GFG joint, and you sent me the track, and you're like, Sarah, learn, or we actually got together, and you taught me all your rhythms.
Yeah.
And learning your rhythms was a different dialect for me because tap dance, we have our own dialect of rhythm. That's how we swing. That's our language. And so and there's other languages amongst the tap language. But Ralph, when I learned your language, it was different for me, but I could get it because it's still rhythm at the end of the day. And we did that video, and I have your rhythm stuck in my head. Ba u de gi dum ga ga shake it dig gung gung silly da ga gi go ga second da ga dilly dilly da ga da ga silly shake it dig go second. Like I know you now. I know you now because of learning your language. So then I watch this now, and I'm like, yo, I see your isms. And I think that's so beautiful because I'm like, I know Ralph. Like if I were to close my eyes and hear that, I'd be like, that's Ralph. I know you as your rhythmic sound. And I think that is such an important thing to bring up in this conversation is developing your sound and developing your voice. Like that's so special, but you have to find that through improvisation. That's the only way you can find it. Otherwise, you're doing other people's stuff. You're learning other people's songs. You're doing other people's choreography. That's other people's voice. You got to find yours by speaking and speaking and speaking and speaking and speaking, just like you do in life. Goo goo gaga until you can say some words and then, speak eloquently and so on and so forth. So it's just a testament to how rhythm and what you do and shed in your real life or in life, or how you live your life, it all encompasses in the music and everything. So I think that's just beautiful. And I just had that kind of revelation right now. Watching that video, I was like, yo, I hear Ralph. I love it. I love it.
You know, I got mad love for you.
Oh, man, likewise.
I was, to be honest, I want to do so much more, with you, but, just those few projects that we have done, and just, like you said, we had our own knowledge, and we were able to find that common ground, and it's like, yo, once it clicked, it's like, oh, it's a rap, and you handled everything like a monster, you just think about, oh yeah, that ain't nothing, killing it. So it's had a choreography, so that's a whole other level. So
right.
Just what we had in common, which was the rhythm, the rhythmic language, and then you just gave it color and gave it life,
Yeah.
So without you, that part would have continued drumming, but you gave it more life.
Sarah Thar, have you ever heard Reich do when we were at the first TMP she did in Florida? I brought the same tabla player in, Raj, and he came up with something. It was like a 12-bar thing, right, Sarah? And it was like, and these two went at it. They did the same. Have you ever seen that? It's on. It's somewhere.
No.
I'd have to hunt for it and show it to you, man. I wish I would have thought about that in advance. I have it in my phone amongst the 35,000 pictures.
I'll send it to Sarah.
Send it, man.
Send it, yes.
It was impressive because we were all just like my whole band was there. We were the musicians for the TMP, and we were just like, nah, it's not gonna happen. And it was just like, boom. It was a vibe for sure.
Wow.
Man, so Sarah, I gotta ask you. Everyone wants to know. Everyone asks. You are one of the most expressive drummers from a facial standpoint. Like the outward expression of joy and focus and energy that you have. My daughter, who was just here, Logan, so that's the one who does the faces. That's the one who does, that's what she just said when she who does the faces. That's what she notices, but I think that's so important, man. And is it something you think about? Is it something conscious? I know you've talked about it before, but I just had to ask you myself, and people are always asking.
Yeah, honestly, again, like not growing up having a teacher or someone to tell you your posture should be like this or hold your sticks like this. You just become like a child and you're just having fun. And I remember like my dad would be like, put your tongue in your mouth. My mom would say, like, why do you look like that? And I'd be like, leave me alone. I'm having a good time. And I remember people started filming me and I'm like, oh my God, that's what I really look like. And I tried to keep a straight face or try to look pretty and smile a certain way. And I'm like, dude, like this is not working for me. I cannot feel the music this way. And I just think like just be yourself. And I feel like I love being fun and just being outgoing. And I think it just shows out through the music. And I don't think there's a right or wrong way to express. I think if people are trying to express themselves but they don't want to express themselves, it's like don't express yourself then, or don't show it. Just be authentic to who you are and people will feel it. So yeah.
Yeah. And by the way, I think you look prettiest when you're expressing. So I mean, you don't have
Thank
to
you. Thank you.
shout out to authenticity being the most attractive of all qualities.
Yeah.
You know? So cool. So all right, let's do this. Let's try this out. Let's see what happens. Let's drum. I'm not drumming, but you guys are drumming. And tapping, which is also drumming. Foot percussionist, I like to call you. So I'm gonna play this groove. This is a groove by my man Bill Muter. Shout out to Bill Muter. The man who covers a multitude of my mistakes on a regular basis every time we play. I appreciate him. And so I'm going to play this groove out. It's a minute long. It's pull right from Instagram. And then afterward, like we can just hit it. Let's see what order we want to go in. Let's go Sarah first. Let's go Sarah, Ralph, Sarah. So Thar, sorry.
Sarah.
Canadian, North Indian by way of East Africa, Sarah first. Mexican, LA, Sarah. No, okay. So Sarah Thar, Ralph Nader, Sarah Reich, and then we'll keep going. All right, and let's do like 8 bars, or just when you're done, you know, I think 8 bars. Does that sound good to everyone? Is that like 120 ish?
Yeah.
So I'll play it. We'll stop it, and then we'll rock and roll. So.
If you gonna line up.
I mean, I think if you take a second, and then when you come in, it might be a little bit of a delay in the next entrance, but
All right.
theoretically, it should feel all right. You know, we'll see what happens. So 80, you want to do 16? What are we doing?
I don't really know what's going on. I don't really know how this is gonna work, but okay.
After Ralph plays, then you tap, and then do 8 bars, and then we'll give it back to Thar. So we'll go around. I don't think this has ever been done in the history of live streams on a Zoom ever in history. So we're breaking all sorts of barriers. We're gonna see what happens. So I'm gonna play Bill's video. Where you hear it, the video will stop, and then Sarah, you can just feel what you feel to it. Should we say 8 bars? 8 bars?
Yeah.
8 bars, and we'll trade 8s.
Let's do it.
Cool. All right. Oh, all right. Here, so let's see here. I'm nervous, guys. I'm not even playing. All right. Bill, you know. All right. You guys ready? Here we go. You're muted, Ralph. Perfect. Hit it again. Sarah, you gonna hit it? You gonna go Ralph? Go Ralph.
Go Ralph.
Go Ralph. Go. Round. Ah. Thank you guys. Thank you guys so much, man. Just this for me, this has made my heart happy just to see you guys, see us all together. We should do something together, man. We got to do something together. We should make it. We should make a thing. Um, I'll just stay out of the way and play some chords, but you guys should do a thing. I'll just.
Let's go. Let's lay the foundation and pass it along. Let's go.
All right. I might.
And then send it to Sarah, and then she'll send it to me, and I'll send it to Sarah, and then we could.
Word. Done and done. I just want to say I know a lot of people would say it if they had the opportunity, but thank you guys for standing out front. You know what I mean? I don't know any other brown girls playing drum set at the level you're playing it at, doing the thing that you're doing and being a beast at it, where no one can deny your quality because of who you are, where you came from. That's one of the things I always appreciated about music, and that I see in this circle right here is that for me as a mixed race kid coming up, I wasn't accepted by either side oftentimes. So the band room was where no one ever asked me where I came from, how much money you made. Didn't matter as long as you were putting out when it was time, right? Like, you can drum, and it's the same way with jazz, right? I mean, it's the earliest segregated art form was music, because at some point you couldn't deny the quality, and the people in this room right here, like, you can't deny the quality, but you have to also be brave enough to stand out front, right? To have 300 comments and 100 of them be like, yeah, I don't know, you're just saying that because she's looking like this, or she's wearing that, or he's doing this, and I could play those diddles, and whatever the case may be, and you got to be just Teflon Dons, you know what I mean? And so I know that I personally appreciate you guys. You guys are people I look up to. You guys are people that I'm always looking to be like, what's next? And always can't wait to spend time with, just to gather a little bit of that energy and share some of that energy. So I know on behalf of me, on the whole percussion tap community, thank you guys for standing out front, being brave, being courageous, and making sure this one, you know what I'm saying, knows that she has permission to do whatever she wants. So thank you guys. Any last words you guys want to say to any advice you want to give to your communities out there?
I want to get Logan some tap shoes.
Logan, you get some tap shoes?
I was just gonna say, we just gotta stay inspired. Just hold on to what drew our passion, for our art form. Because a lot of times when you do something for a long period of times, the effect may vary, and you may not have the same feeling every day, but you have to dig deep and find that fire, that reason why, so that gives you that extra push. So, like I said, there's going to be ups and downs, and that's with everything. But, the thing is, if you push through it, you'll still feel fulfilled at the end of the day.
Yeah, man. Yeah, man. Scripture that too. How about you, Thar?
Yeah.
Miss
I would say, don't worry about labeling. Don't worry about, like for drummers, too many chops, not enough pocket, or too much pocket, not enough chops. Like, just do you and have fun.
Yes. Preach. Amen to that all day long. Guys, thank you guys very much for doing this. Let's continue to make Magic Man and inspire one another, inspire the community and culture, man. Big ups to you guys.
Thank you so much for having me.
I love y'all so much.
Love you.
Yeah, keep killing it, man. Like I said, we're going to get this thing going. So I guess it just starts with a message. So let's just take that first step and make it happen.
That's it, man. That's it. I'm into it. I got my studio in the back, and this one's ready to record stuff. You trying to give me bunny ears right there? I don't know what you're trying to do. You saying peace? Okay, cool. Okay. Sarah Rice, Sour Taps, Ralph Nader, R Nader for Prez, Sarah Thar, Sarah T Drum Guru, but you can find them worldwide, man. So till next